Hello, hello, and welcome to Awaken the Light Within. My name is Leanne Schweitzer, and I am your hostess with the mostest. And I feel so much excitement and joy to bring you this episode I like to call Awakening the Teacher Within, where we'll talk about unschooling and self-led learning. And so this is kind of a continuation from the last episode where I shared the story, a quick little recap about when I made the decision to leave my full time remote job that I'd been doing for the last few years when my daughter became 18 months old, right? If you are a parent or you know anyone that's a parent, right, when you have an 18-month-old, they just learned how to walk and they are getting into anything and everything. And at the time, I was doing a sales job where I'm like trying to answer the phone and do all these calls while my daughter's like getting into anything and everything. And I just reached a point where I was like, I just couldn't do it anymore. And my job at the time had encouraged me to look into daycare, and I did. And what I uncovered is that at the time I was making about $2,000 a month, and daycare, part-time daycare, was about $2,200 a month. So it felt like a complete wash. And I was not willing to sacrifice my daughter's childhood for that. And so I made the scary decision to step away and become a full-time stay-at-home mom. And that's when I really started to question a lot of the school systems that are currently in place. Most specifically, the first thing that I began to question was the food, right? I remember going to school and eating these like super dogs every single day. They were like really long hot dogs and these like white buns, with chocolate milk and just like the most just not nutritional meals. Like the food that they're serving in the schools is just like it's not in alignment with who I am today. And so that was actually the first thing that I began to question. And I really, really started to lean in and look into, right, is the education system, is it designed to create free thinkers? Or is it designed to create obedient workers, right? Free thinkers or obedient workers? Does the system nurture creativity and critical thinking? Or does it prioritize memorization, standardized tests, and conformity, right? Encouraging you to fit in, to be like everyone else, to conform, right? Who benefits the most from the current education structure? Is it the students or is it society? Or is it large institutions, right? Think about it. Like, I saw this reel at the time when I was looking into it, and basically it was comparing school to jail, right? If you think about it, they ride on the same exact buses. The school and the jail, same exact buses going into a building where they're locked inside for the majority of the day. They get a 30-minute recess. They get, a 30-minute opportunity to go outside and pick up trash, volunteer, do their things. Like they are very, very, very similar. And I just want to encourage you to question that, right? Why are certain subjects prioritized in the classroom and other things, right? I remember, right, if you remember from the last episode, I spoke about how I invested in this program where I learned about not only manifestation, but we also learned about financial literacy and wealth consciousness. And one of the first things that I said is, why are they not teaching this in schools? Like I was completely mind blown. Why are they not teaching emotional intelligence? Entrepreneurship, why are they not teaching these things? Like, why? And who decides what knowledge is considered valuable? And how does history change depending on who writes it, right? What about these traditional educations, right? And they enforce this like one size fits all learning, right? This like fit in a box, right? Sitting at a desk for hours and hours and hours in a wall with zero sunlight does this truly foster learning, or does it suppress natural curiosity, right? I watch my daughter on a daily basis and she is so curious, right? Are children learning how to think, or are they learning what to think, right? Are they learning how to think, or are they learning what to think? Do standardized grading systems, do they actually reflect intelligence, or does it measure obedience and memorization, right? And how does labeling students as smart, straight A students or failing F impact their self-worth and their lifelong learning, right? Why do schools focus on ranking students rather than encouraging self-paced growth? Right? Why do students have so little say in their own education? How does the hierarchy between teachers, admins, and students, right? How does it affect their learning environments? And should learning be a collaborative process rather than a top-down structure, right? What can we learn from these alternative education models, right? When I really started to question the system, I also started to look into these alternatives. Actually, I remember, if you're on YouTube, you can see this book. So it's called The Call of the Wild and Free, and I'll put it in the show notes so you can check it out. But basically, after I made that decision, me and my daughter were on a walk one day, and there's these like little tiny libraries, throughout the neighborhood of just people that, built them in their front yards, and they put their books out there. And I went in there and I found this book, and it's Reclaiming Wonder in Your Child's Education. And so if you are considering awakening the teacher within, this is the book that I would recommend for you to read. It was like so amazing and so eye-opening, and it really spoke to these alternative education models, right, such as homeschooling and unschooling and Montessori approaches, right? And why do some of the most successful innovators and entrepreneurs, why do they thrive outside of the traditional education? And if education is only truly about learning, why are these alternative paths, why are they discouraged, right? And there's a mental health crisis going on, right? Can we all agree that there is a mental health crisis going on? And how do these standardized testing create anxiety and limit the creative problem solving of our children and that next generation, right? Now, does traditional schooling, does it actually support emotional intelligence and self-awareness, mindfulness, right? Are we teaching kids to love learning, or are we teaching them to fear failure? Are we teaching them to love learning, or are we teaching them to fear failure? And who profits from the education system, right? The Rockefeller programming, right? Why is student debt skyrocketing while degrees are becoming less valuable? Right? I did what I was told my whole entire life. I went to school, I got good grades, I graduated, I went to college for 4 years, and I graduated only to get a job offer where I was going to be making $25,000 a year salary, which was less than what I was earning waiting tables at the steakhouse down the street while I was in college. And I said, no. I'm like, no, no. Why are we investing tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars into degrees? Why? When these degrees are becoming less valuable as we speak, right? And how does funding influence what schools teach and prioritize? And how can we think about lifelong learning, right? Learning should not end at the end of your high school career, at the end of your college career, right? Why do we assume that learning stops after school, right? Does traditional education prepare students for real life? Or does it prepare you just for more schooling, right? What skill sets are actually needed to thrive in today's world? And are they taught in schools, right? You've heard me say it before, the quality of questions that you ask yourself determine the quality of your life. And so I really want to encourage you to think about these questions, ponder them, write in a journal. And I want to introduce this theme of what does it mean to awaken the teacher within? What does it mean to awaken the teacher within. Right? To me, awakening the teacher within is all about trusting your intuition, right? Listening to that soft whisper of your heart rather than always seeking validation from others, right? And embracing this idea of self led learning and realizing that you don't need a formal institution to grow, right? Life itself is the ultimate classroom, and you can break free from the societal conditioning, right? You can unlearn these limiting beliefs instilled by the education system, by society and our culture, right? And you can tap into your unique gifts, recognizing that you already have that wisdom deep within you and it is waiting to be expressed and shared, right? And think about this perspective, right? Living as not only the teacher, but also as the student, right? Seeing every single experience as an opportunity to learn and understand that the best teachers are those who continue to evolve themselves, right? To awaken the inner teacher is to step into sovereignty over your own mind, body, and spirit and realize that the answers you seek, they've been within you all along. They've been within you all along, right? You've been conditioned to seek answers outside of yourself instead of trusting in your own knowing, right? Reconnecting with your inner teacher is a form of awakening. Right. So I want to really talk about unschooling, which is the ultimate path to freedom. And if you've never heard of unschooling, I hadn't either until I became a part of this health conscious, freedom based entrepreneur community just a few short years ago. I got opened up to this experience after I stepped away from my 9 to 5 job and I took a manifestation course, and then I manifested this business opportunity into my life where the majority of people were unschooling their children, right? Unschooling. I had not even heard of it, right? And so myth number one is that you need a teacher to learn, right? And while guidance is valuable, right? True learning happens when you take ownership of your growth, right? The most profound insights come from lived experience, comes from self-inquiry, and from following your own innate curiosity, right? And another thing, right? Another myth is that learning only happens in schools, right? The truth is that learning is a lifelong process that happens everywhere, through conversations, through cooking, through going to the grocery store, through travel, through experiences, through books, and most importantly, through mistakes, through failures, right? Right now, I'm learning how to sew alongside my daughter, and it has been so challenging, so frustrating, and I've been making a lot of mistakes. I'm showing my daughter that I'm making mistakes and that I'm learning from these mistakes, right? The world is the ultimate classroom, right? And so myth number three is that if you don't follow the system, you'll fail in life, right? There's this system. You got to go to school, get good grades, graduate, go to college, get a job, work that same job for 40, 45 years, and then retire, right? That's an old system. Many of the world's most successful innovators, many of the world's most successful entrepreneurs and free thinkers broke away from the traditional education, stepped outside of the box to follow their own path, myself included. And true success comes from thinking outside of the box and not just following the rules. Right. And so myth number four is that you have to be an expert to teach yourself, right? And the best learners aren't those who know everything, right? If I don't know something, then why the heck does my daughter have to know it, right? Yes, I went and took AP calculus, and am I using any of that in my daily life? No. Do I feel like my daughter needs to know AP calculus? No. Do I feel like she needs to know AP chemistry and, all of these things, right? You just have to stay open to your growth, right? Your inner teacher does not need to have all the answers, right? It simply needs to have curiosity and trust in the process, right? And so really allowing yourself to unlearn, right? And this simply means rejecting everything that you've been taught along the way, right? Awakening the teacher within, it's about rejecting all of the knowledge. It's about questioning it all. It's about discerning what aligns with your truth and what doesn't, right? It's about questioning, not blindly accepting these things that you've been taught and told, and or rejecting, right? And another thing, another myth is that self-led learning is lonely, right? Awakening your inner teacher does not mean isolating yourself. In fact, it often leads you to like-minded communities, like I've been talking about all along, right? It leads you to like-minded mentors and experiences that support your unique journey, right? And a lot of people think that, oh, I'm not smart enough to teach, right? Intelligence is not about memorization or grades, right? I repeat, it's not about memorization or grades. It's about curiosity. It's about adaptability. It's about critically thinking for yourself. And everyone has the ability to awaken the teacher within. It's just a matter of tuning in and trusting the process, right? The bottom line is that you are your own greatest teacher. And the moment you stop outsourcing your learning and start trusting your own wisdom, you really truly step into true freedom. Right. And so another myth is that self-led learning and unschooling lacks socialization. Right. I hear all the time. I heard it just the other day in the grocery store line when I was checking out. And the woman that works there is like, "Oh, Lila's 5 now. Is she going to school?" And I'm like, "No, I'm gonna homeschool her." And she's like, "Oh, but what about socialization?" Right? Socialization is not about sitting in a classroom with 30 kids the same age. It is about engaging with people of all backgrounds, all ages, and perspectives in real life settings, in real life situations, right? Unschoolers and homeschoolers and self-led learners, they have the most diverse, the most rich social experiences because they interact with people in real world environments rather than artificial school structures. Yes, my daughter still does, gymnastics, right? Where she goes to a 5 to 6 year old class where she's learning how to, do these tumbling routines and this exercises in these hammocks, these swings, right? And she is doing alongside these 5 to 6 year olds, and she is connecting with other people that her own age. And I do think that that is important. And there are other ways to do it, right? As she becomes 6 years old next year, I'm going to start forming a homeschooling/unschooling pod, right? I'm going to put out into a Facebook group of other local moms here in Bend, Oregon, where I live, and see who else is out there that wants to join a pod where we can meet up, 2 days a week for a couple of hours for our children to interact and play and have that, that community of similar kids their age, right? Engaging in co-ops or workshops or local events, right? Traveling and exploring, learning through meeting new people and cultures, right? And connecting with like-minded individuals through, like I said, sports and arts and hobbies, right? And having real conversations, right? Engaging with people of all ages and not just the same age peers, right? My daughter went to the park the other day, and she does this often, right? She literally like goes up and says hi to almost every single person that she meets and sees, because that's what I do too, right? I'm always saying hi to people, always saying hi to strangers, right? It's a myth that, as an adult, you can't make friends, right? You literally just have to say hi to people and connect with them, right? And so she sees me doing it, and so she does it too. And so she went up to this woman who was, I don't even know exactly how old she was, but she was, definitely like a grandmother. She was talking about her grandkids, and she had, her 2 dogs with her. And Lila went up to her and started talking to her, and she was so excited and like blown away that, this little 5-year-old girl is coming up and having a real world conversation with her, right? This is what it is all about, right? True socialization is not about being forced into some environment every single day. It's about learning how to connect, learning how to communicate, and learning how to collaborate in the real world, right? Unschooling is not just for your kids, it is for you too, right? It's about deprogramming yourself from these outdated system, right? So what does a day in the life of an unschooling slash homeschooling mom of a 5-year-old daughter look like? For me, it looks like waking up without an alarm clock. I wake up at 4:44 every single day, usually because of my bowel movements. I am very, very regular, and I get up at that same time. And so I go to the bathroom. I drink a large glass, about a quart of hydrogen rich, electrolyte reduced water because I've just been sleeping for the last 8 hours, and your body gets to hydrate while you're sleeping. So the first thing, the most important thing to do is to hydrate your body with living water that actually hydrates your cells. And then after I drink water, I go outside and I stand on Mother Earth, in the grass, in nature, in snow, doesn't matter the season, and I ground and I take a couple of deep breaths under the moonlight, and I set my intention for the day. And then after I finish grounding, I go inside and I pull out my journal. I learned this from the book called The Artist's Way, which I can also link that in the comments as well too. It has this practice in it called morning pages, where you just brain dump for 3 pages and it can be anything, right? And sometimes I don't even know, like I don't even have any words, so I just write my affirmations, I write my visualization, I write my vision for the future. I would just write whatever comes out, right? It's just this idea of like getting through the cobwebs to really get through to that clarity. So I just write for 3 pages, and sometimes I don't even know what the heck I'm writing, but I just write, right? And so I do my journaling, I sit in prayer and meditation, and I read. After that, first I take a hot shower, and then I turn the dial over to cold, and as long as I possibly can, I stand under that cold water, and it is so challenging. It took me so long to build this in my morning routine, and it has been a game changer for me because it sets me up. After I take my cold shower, then I go do my business tasks because I'm an entrepreneur. I have a freedom business that gives me the ability to create my own schedule. And so I choose to work while my daughter is sleeping. So I get up early in the morning and I do my business tasks before my daughter wakes up. She has been waking up on average between 7 and 8 these days. And so I get as much of my business tasks done. And then when she wakes up, she comes downstairs and she literally comes and cuddles with me. And so we will cuddle for a couple of minutes, 10 minutes. As long as she will sit there, I will embrace that, because I tell you what, as she gets older, it's getting shorter and shorter, right? It's not like laying on the couch and cuddling for hours all day, right? That the time is getting, right? She's getting older. And so I embrace, as long as I can sit there on that couch, we'll read some books, we'll get together and we'll make breakfast together, and then we sit down and we do gratitude together. We share, what we're grateful for about that meal. We'll share that we're grateful for the farmers that grew the fruit and the vegetables, and we're grateful, actually no, she doesn't eat vegetables, who am I kidding? We're grateful for the farmers that farmed the meat, that took care of the animals, and we eat our breakfast together. And then we will do some coloring, we'll do some projects. It's self-led learning, right? So it's like, okay, what do you want to do? You want to play a card game? You want to play a game? You want to work on the sewing machine? We do a little project, and then we always have what I like to call an adventure. We go on an adventure, and it looks different every day. Sometimes we'll go to the park down the street. Sometimes we'll hop on our e-bike, depending on the weather, and we'll go to a park across town. We'll go to, in the summertime, we'll go to the farmer's market or the river and go swimming. We'll go to the library. We'll go on an adventure every single day. And we just spend time, like, being outside in nature is a priority every single day. Getting vitamin D is a priority every single day. And then, eventually that's when daddy gets off of work and we will spend either time together as a family, or I will go to the yoga studio and I'll go either take my own, sorry, not take my own, take a class, my own personal practice, and or I will also teach. I teach about 3 to 4 yoga classes a week at the yoga studio, where I get to share my passion, my purpose. My purpose is being a mom, and I also love yoga. I love sharing this beautiful gift with the world, and I get the opportunity to go do that most days, and I get to design my life around my own schedule and not the other way around. And so that's just like a bird's eye view into what a day in the life of unschooling looks like. It looks different every single day. And it gets to be about self led learning, right? And so I want to leave you with this final question, right? What's one area of your life where you can trust yourself more? What's one area of your life where you can trust yourself more? You were born a teacher. That teacher is within you. You have everything within you. Can you trust yourself, right? I want to encourage you to step into the role of not only the teacher, but also the student, right? Stepping into that teacher and the student, right? Because it's all about reparenting yourself. It's all about that inner child and healing that inner child within you and really owning your life, right? And so I want to encourage you to share this message with someone that needs to hear it. I appreciate you. I love you so much. I'm rooting for you. I'm cheering you on. And I can't wait to talk to you on the next